Sweden explained in 12 minutes. Chapter 1: The Land of the Midnight Sun. Sweden. A country where the sun barely sets in summer and barely rises in winter. Where reindeer outnumber cars in the far north, and where you can ski under the northern lights while sipping a hot cup of coffee. Sweden is the largest Nordic country, stretching nearly 1,600 kilometers from the Baltic Sea in the south to the Arctic Circle in the north. It is a land of breathtaking contrasts, over 100,000 lakes, 221,000 islands, and forests that cover nearly 70% of its territory. This Scandinavian giant is home to just 10.5 million people, making it one of the least densely populated countries in Europe. But don't let the sparse population fool you. Sweden has shaped the modern world in ways that most people don't even realize. From the safety matches in your kitchen drawer to the GPS in your pocket, from the music you stream to the furniture you assemble on a rainy Sunday afternoon, Swedish innovation is everywhere. Today, we are diving deep into this Nordic powerhouse, from the Viking longships that terrified medieval Europe to the Nobel Prizes that honor human genius. This is Sweden, explained in 12 minutes. Chapter 2: Geography and Climate. Sweden occupies the eastern side of the Scandinavian peninsula, sharing borders with Norway to the west and Finland to the northeast. It is also connected to Denmark by the Øresund Bridge, an engineering marvel that spans 8 kilometers across the strait. The geography of Sweden tells a story of ice. During the last ice age, massive glaciers carved out the landscape, leaving behind thousands of lakes, smooth granite outcrops, and the distinctive flat coastal plains. The country can be divided into 3 distinct regions. Norrland in the north is a vast wilderness of coniferous forests, mountains, and the famous Kebnekaise, Sweden's highest peak at 2,097 meters. Svealand in the center is where you will find Stockholm, the capital, and the historic lake districts. Götaland in the south features the most fertile farmland and the vibrant cities of Gothenburg and Malmö. The climate varies dramatically. In Kiruna, above the Arctic Circle, the sun does not set for 47 days in summer, a phenomenon known as the midnight sun. But in winter, the same town plunges into the polar night, where the sun does not rise for 26 days. Down south, winters are milder, and summers are pleasant long days spent in coastal cottages. Sweden also boasts an extraordinary archipelago. The Stockholm archipelago alone contains over 30,000 islands, islets, and skerries, a paradise for sailors and kayakers. Chapter 3: The Viking Age. Sweden's story begins long before it was called Sweden. It begins with the Vikings. From the late 8th to the 11th century, Swedish Vikings, often called Varangians, set out not just westward like their Norwegian and Danish cousins, but eastward. They sailed across the Baltic Sea, navigated Russia's vast river systems, and reached as far as Constantinople, modern Istanbul. They traded furs, amber, and slaves for silk, spices, and silver from the Byzantine and Islamic worlds. Swedish Vikings founded settlements along the Volga and Dnieper rivers. They became the elite guard of the Byzantine emperor, known as the Varangian Guard, feared for their loyalty and their massive two-handed axes. The Rus people, from whom Russia gets its name, trace their origins to these Swedish voyagers. Back home, the Viking town of Birka, near Stockholm, became one of the most important trading centers in northern Europe. Excavations there have uncovered treasures from as far away as Central Asia and the Middle East. But the Viking Age did not last forever. By the 11th century, Sweden began to Christianize, and the age of raiding and trading gave way to the age of kingdoms. Chapter 4: The Rise of a Great Power. Fast forward to the 17th century, and Sweden had transformed from a sparsely populated northern kingdom into one of Europe's great powers. Under King Gustavus Adolphus, Sweden built one of the most formidable armies of the era. He revolutionized warfare with mobile artillery, disciplined infantry formations, and tactical innovations that influenced European military strategy for centuries. Sweden's empire, known as the Swedish Empire or Stormaktstiden, the Age of Greatness, stretched across the Baltic. It controlled Finland, parts of Norway, Estonia, Latvia, and significant territories in northern Germany. The Baltic Sea was so dominated by Sweden that it was nicknamed the Swedish Lake. But empires eventually crumble. The turning point came in 1709 at the Battle of Poltava, where the army of King Charles XII was crushed by Russia under Peter the Great. Sweden lost its eastern territories and its status as a great power. It was a devastating blow, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter, one of peace, neutrality, and quiet prosperity that continues to this day. Chapter 5: The Swedish Model. The Sweden we know today, prosperous, egalitarian, and peaceful, was forged in the 20th century. Sweden famously remained neutral in both world wars, a decision that saved it from destruction while allowing its industries to supply both sides. This neutrality, combined with an intact industrial base, positioned Sweden for explosive economic growth after 1945. The Swedish model emerged, a unique blend of capitalism and socialism. The government provides universal healthcare, free education through university, generous parental leave, 480 days per child, and a robust social safety net. But it is all funded by some of the world's highest tax rates, with the top marginal rate reaching around 57%. Critics call it unsustainable. Supporters point to Sweden's consistent ranking among the world's happiest, healthiest, and most innovative nations. One concept that captures the Swedish spirit is lagom, a word with no direct English translation. It means not too much, not too little, but just the right amount. Lagom is the golden mean applied to every aspect of life. It is why Swedish design is minimalist, why Swedish politics is consensus-driven, and why Swedes queue patiently at bus stops. Chapter 6: Innovation and Industry. Sweden punches far above its weight in global innovation. With just 0.13% of the world's population, Sweden has produced an astonishing number of world-changing companies and inventions. Spotify changed how the entire world listens to music. IKEA democratized modern design and made flat-pack furniture a global phenomenon. Ericsson built the infrastructure for the mobile revolution. Volvo invented the three-point seatbelt and then gave away the patent for free, saving over 1 million lives. Skype, created by a Swede and a Dane, transformed global communication. And Minecraft, the best-selling video game of all time, was coded by a single Swedish developer. Sweden also gave the world the zipper, the adjustable wrench, the computer mouse, the pacemaker, and even the Celsius temperature scale. The country invests over 3% of its GDP in research and development, one of the highest rates in the world. Stockholm has become known as the Unicorn Factory, producing more billion-dollar tech startups per capita than any city outside Silicon Valley. Chapter 7: Culture and Traditions. Swedish culture is a rich tapestry woven from ancient pagan traditions, Lutheran restraint, and modern global influences. One of the most beloved celebrations is Midsummer, held on the longest day of the year. Swedes dance around a maypole decorated with flowers, eat pickled herring and new potatoes, and drink schnapps while singing drinking songs. It is Christmas in summer, and it is the most important holiday on the Swedish calendar. Lucia Day on December 13th celebrates Saint Lucia with processions of white-robed children wearing candles in their hair, bringing light to the darkest time of the year. Fika is another Swedish institution, not just a coffee break, but a sacred daily ritual. Swedes stop work to enjoy coffee with a cinnamon bun or pastry, and the conversation that accompanies it is just as important as the caffeine. It is said that no important business decision in Sweden is made without fika. And of course, Swedish music. Beyond ABBA, who sold over 150 million albums, Sweden is the world's third largest music exporter after the United States and the United Kingdom, thanks to legendary producers like Max Martin, who wrote hits for Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, and The Weeknd. Chapter 8: Nature and Outdoor Life. Allemansrätten, the right of public access, is a uniquely Swedish concept. It allows anyone to roam freely in nature, even on private land, to camp for a night, pick berries and mushrooms, swim in lakes, and kayak along the coast, as long as you do not disturb and do not destroy. This freedom is enshrined in the Constitution and reflects the deep Swedish relationship with nature. In winter, Sweden becomes a wonderland. The Ice Hotel in Jukkasjärvi, 200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, is rebuilt every year entirely from ice and snow from the Torne River. Guests sleep on beds of ice covered with reindeer skins. The northern lights paint the Arctic sky in green, purple, and pink ribbons from September to March. In summer, Swedes retreat to their stuga, a red wooden cottage by a lake or on an island. Over 600,000 summer homes dot the Swedish landscape. Life slows down. Days are spent swimming, fishing, and watching the sun hover just above the horizon well past midnight. Sweden is home to some of Europe's last remaining wilderness. Bears, wolves, lynx, and wolverines still roam the northern forests. And Sweden's national animal, the majestic moose, known as the alg, is so iconic that Swedes hold an annual moose calling competition in the forests of Jämtland. Chapter 9: Sweden Today and Tomorrow. Today's Sweden faces challenges that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. Immigration has transformed the country's demographics, with roughly 20% of the population now foreign-born. This has enriched Swedish culture and cuisine but has also strained the welfare system and sparked intense political debate. Gang violence, once almost unheard of in Sweden, has risen in urban areas. Climate change poses particular risks to the Arctic North, where temperatures are rising twice as fast as the global average and permafrost is thawing. But Sweden is tackling these challenges with its characteristic pragmatism. The country is a global leader in renewable energy, already getting over 50% of its energy from renewables. Sweden aims to become carbon neutral by 2045, one of the most ambitious climate goals in the world. And Swedish companies are pioneering green steel, electric aviation, and battery technology that could power the next industrial revolution. From the Vikings who sailed to Constantinople to the engineers who put GPS in every smartphone, from the Nobel Prize to the meatball, Sweden's influence on the world is enormous and enduring. If you enjoyed this journey through Sweden, subscribe to TrendLens for more country documentaries, and let us know in the comments which country you want us to explore next.